First name's Donnie, last name's Glover, in it to win it for the long haul, baby. Today we're going to discuss black boys and mental health. Black men are especially vulnerable to mental health challenges due to a number of factors, including systemic racism. Hello, welcome to America. Black men face systemic racism and related trauma, which can contribute to mental health issues. I'd say, you ever drove while black? You ever walk down the street while black? Police jump out on you, they call it jump out. Poverty, high poverty rates can contribute to mental health challenges. I'd say implicit bias on the part of medical providers can make it difficult for black men to access quality mental health care. Somebody trying to lock you up instead of giving you mental health treatment, or put your kid on Ritalin because he got some extra energy. Stigma, deep stigma within the black community can make it difficult to seek help for mental health concerns. He crazy. Societal expectations of black masculinity can discourage seeking help for mental health concerns. Thank you, Tyler Perry. Some mental health issues that black men face include depression, anxiety, borderline personality disorder, substance abuse. We got a liquor store in every corner. Alcohol is readily available 20 out of 24 hours a day in the city of Baltimore. Bar closed at 2, it opened up at 6. Socially acceptable, promoted on most every television show you find, including the sports games. Post-traumatic stress disorder. Did I tell you that 70% of our households are run by single mothers? Schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. Black men are 4 times more likely to die by suicide than African-American women. Didn't know that. In 2022, deaths from suicide, alcohol use, and drug overdoses were higher among black people than white people for the first time. Trump was the president. If you or someone you know is struggling with suicidal thoughts or mental health matters, you can call the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, 988. To discuss the state of our young black boys is a gentleman I've known since the mid-90s. He's been a big brother. He is a serial entrepreneur. He is the president, CEO, grand potentate of the Baltimore College Collegiate School for Boys. We've done a Black Wall Street Awards there. He's had Nguzu Saba condoms on the market. He's had his own restaurant. He's had his own magazine, Heart and Soul magazine. Without further ado, the illustrious, the incomparable, and his wife is really, really kind, Mr. Edwin Avent. Hello, sir. You see, I'm done, and we 3-1, baby, 3-1. I can't wear this during the regular season, but now that we're in the postseason, I'm a Reggie Jackson fan. Remember how they?
Well, look, I'm originally from Philadelphia, so I am just bummed out because I'm a Phillies fan, an Eagles fan, and Sixers fan, and those Phillies just they were dominating all season. It got to the postseason.
It's about the finish, man.
It is about the finish. It is.
I'm a Ravens fan, but in the days of Tom Brady at New England, they were finishers.
Yeah, you got it.
The old Steelers, they were finishers.
Absolutely.
You got to finish. Absolutely. And that's what you push our young men to do, finish.
That's absolutely true. That's what it's all about. A lot of the things I heard you naming, the statistics that are impacting black men's lives, a lot of it is because they're not finishing their education. And because they don't finish their education, or more importantly, unfortunately for too many of them, they're not getting a great start to their education. So when they're very young, they're not being taught to read at a very early age. They're in environments where the vocabulary is very limited. And so what we find is that a lot of their counterparts, a lot of their counterparts, their vocabulary is wider in their house, probably by 100,000 words. So these little children are growing up with bigger vocabularies than ours are. And then ours are not learning to read at a very early age. And so by the time they're in 3rd grade, really from kindergarten to third grade, you're learning to read. From fourth grade on, you're reading to learn. But if you make it to the grade and you don't know how to read, you begin to lose hope. And when you lose hope, then all bets are off, right? Because how am I going to make it in this world? How am I going to be able to work? How am I going to be able to get a job and sustain a job? I can't even really count. I can't even really read the instructions. And so you lose self-esteem. And when you lose self-esteem, you lose hope. Then you really don't care what you do. And unfortunately, it leads to crime. It leads to illegal activities. It leads to mental stress. It leads to early suicide. All of these things are contributing to a lot of the things that you named as that are the ills that are impacting particularly young Black males. And that's why I've been, I figured out that a long time ago, like, you know what, the root cause of most of our problems is that Black men are not as educated as they need to be to go to that next level, to be able to sustain themselves, to sustain a family, to buy a home, to be tax-paying contributors to society. And when they can't do that, then the whole structure of our entire community is weakened. And so I think our mission has to be like, all right, man, we got to just do a whole new thing. Like, let's go back after all our young Black boys and try and help them become strong Black men. And then I think you see a little less, not elimination of all these problems, but less of those problems. I think you're on mute.
Princess, stop making all that noise. We can hear you loud and clear. Princess, you want to introduce yourself to Mr. Avent? He is a longtime friend. He's a boss. He's a big brother. So give him that pretty smile. And this is, and let me tell you, Mr. Avent, as you have mentored me, this mentorship goes back 20 years, 18 years to be exact,
okay.
when she was out at Culture College.
Very good.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Princess.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you, Mr. Edwin. I've heard great things about you, and
Avent.
I am honored to be present today. Who am I? So my name is Princess. These days, I just go by Princess We Voiceover. I created my own company called Voiceover Inspires Entertainment, which is purposed to provide hope and inspiration to others in need of a voice. So I use my multicultural background as an African American and Honduran woman to tell stories in the form of audio. So I create voiceovers for companies in need of commercials, e-learning, animation, toys, and narration. And I love what I do. And I figured out a way to make money using my voice to inspire and uplift and provide a perspective into my world of culture that others are not used to.
Okay.
So I thank you for what you do, because what you do for well, part of what you do is you provide an educational platform for young boys from grades 4 to 8, and you enrich them with academia as well as a belief in themselves that they can achieve whatever they put their minds to. And so I come from a background of, I attended private school at Beaver Country Day in Massachusetts, and then I attended several different public schools, and I graduated from Goucher College. And so, education is so important into how we maneuver the world, and to how into what determines one's outcome. And so what you do is very inspirational, and it gives hope to others. I'm a mom of a little boy, and I know now is the time that he needs to start learning how to read.
Yeah, I'm glad you finally
So
got
I
to
thank you
that.
for what you do,
Yeah.
Edmund.
Yeah. How old is he?
My son is 3 years old.
This is the time. That's the age. You need to be
Mhm.
pouring. You need to read to him every single night. Read to him all the time, and get him to start reading now, because they can start reading at 3 years old. They
Oh,
really
yeah.
can, and they
You know,
really can. So
you're
yeah,
right.
pour into them.
What you touch on, I wanna talk about, a topic that I learned as a mother, but you probably see it in academia. This mindset of putting limits on our children to what they can achieve.
Mhm.
So to give you some background, because I tend to be somewhat of an open book. My son started his journey early, and he had a slight speech and language delay for about 2 years. And
Hmm.
he didn't fully start talking and forming sentences until he was 3 years old.
Okay.
But I was one of those moms who I thought to myself, "I'm not going to wait for his speech to develop. I'm going to work backwards a little bit." So I started pouring into him the foundations of education, like alphabets and numbers, and so my son knew, all of his alphabets and his numbers by 18 months. So they
Okay.
they were testing him because when you have a speech and language delay or you think your child has a speech and language delay, it's very important that you get your child tested
Right.
an effort to determine what needs or services that child may require. So anyway, it's interesting because from that experience, I realized that in order for my child to gain access to the type of education I want him to have, it means it all starts with me. So at 18 months, my son knew his numbers. He was passing tests. They told me he was, advanced on some levels. And so when his speech finally came in, he was able to, articulate, in sentences and be very educated. But one of the things that stood out to me was I came across this program and I think it's called, um, I'll get it before this is over, but I don't want to make a mistake. But I will tell you what it does. It aims to teach your child how to read by 2 years old.
Okay.
And there are programs out there that teach young toddlers how to learn from a very early on age. And so I think it's just inspirational because the Harford County public school system, people that were coming to my house to provide my son with speech and language services told me that that's not what they're working on with the kids his age. They're not teaching the kids how to read yet. The expectation for children like my son is that they start learning how to read and sounds around 5 years old and 6. I mean, they might master some sounds, but by
Yeah.
5 years old and 6 is when they're focused on reading, and I thought to myself, "Isn't that a little too late?" Because
Yeah.
what's
So
happening is
Princess,
the
let's
kids are getting to school and they're behind.
Princess,
So what I want
let's get some
sorry,
feedback
we
from
got
our
some new guests,
guests.
so I wanna keep my mouth shut. I don't want to overtalk. We have new guests on.
Well,
Oh,
because we first need to get to the sponsor of this show, Mr.
Yes.
Avent.
yes,
What's
sir.
your title? Is it Grand Potentate? Potentate?
It's the CEO. I'm the CEO of
CEO.
the Five Smooth Stones Foundation, which is the operator of Baltimore Collegiate School for Boys.
Okay, well,
So,
let me introduce you in case you don't know, Mr. Vin McCormick of New Life Recovery Center. He is the sponsor of this show. We focus on mental health. If I think better, I can do better. Good afternoon, Mr. McCormick.
Great afternoon to everyone. Please forgive my tardiness. I went through an audit. I was sharing with Donnie earlier. I went through an accreditation audit. Right behind that, a Medicaid audit, and those people want what they want when they want it. So thank you all for coming on. I'm familiar with the two gentlemen. So good morning to both of you. I've seen them both out in the community. I was actually at the Baltimore Collegiate for Men with Miss Avent and Dr. Wilson. As a matter of fact, I think I was there when we greeted the guys in the morning after that
exactly.
gentleman was murdered, Mr. Avent, and we
Yeah.
greeted the men coming to school. Good morning to you, Miss Princess. I appreciate you being on the show.
Good
And
morning.
Donnie, again, thank you for what you're doing in terms of moderating. I sincerely appreciate what you're doing to bring an awareness to mental health in Baltimore and beyond. Is our mantra. So New Life is here to. I don't know if any of you are familiar with New Life, but we're here. We're fairly new on the block. I've been open about 5 years, and I would invite all of you. Donnie's been here several times. I would invite all of you to come down. We recently leased a hotel about a year ago, formerly the Baltimore Plaza, where Radio One used to be on St. Paul Street. I think some of you are familiar.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Avent, he got the whole block.
Yeah.
Oh, you got the
So
whole block.
yeah,
That's
that's
fantastic.
God, man. It's not me. It's God.
It's
Uh,
God. I totally understand, my
yeah,
brother.
we have a 100-room hotel at the 110 location. We also have the restaurant next door, which is Food for Thought Restaurant with the number 4, and then right next to that, I think that's probably why Don is saying that. I've been blessed to get the hotel on the corner that's being renovated as we speak. The completion date is February 25, which is around the corner, and we'll have that.
Which hotel is that?
It's a new hotel. It was never named. It was
Wow.
what it is. It used to be a residential apartment building.
Okay.
Right? Hotel, but we're reformatting it for hotel occupation. It won't be a hotel to the public, right?
Are you going to fly a flag of a brand on it? Which one, like Choice or?
No. It's not a hotel. So I'm using the term hotel because it's going to be licensed as a hotel, right? But it won't be operational as a hotel. You follow me?
Okay.
And the reason, let me tell you why I'm doing that. So in mental health, when we house people, we give them a place to stay, right? And please forgive me, and I don't mean to interrupt what's the conversation that was here before me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we've learned is I don't rent to my residents or my clients. I do not rent to them. Mm-hmm. Why? Because if they go off task and they don't do what's necessary, then I don't want to go through the eviction process, which is horrible in Baltimore City. Because I'm also a landlord and a property manager. I understand the aspect. We don't want to get involved in that. So we tying up a unit for 4 or 5 months going through the court trying to put somebody out. So what we've decided to do is if you license it as a hotel, and I'm sure many of you have stayed in hotels, if you don't do what you need to do, they can put you out in a moment. Okay. Right? And the police come and yes, sir, you have to leave, right? So we decided for the sake of expediency when there's non-compliance to keep it licensed and to license the new location as a hotel. That has its own nuances as far as zoning, but we're getting it done because we want to be able to put people in there when we can. If you're not acting right, please move along, sir. Move along, ma'am. We need to get somebody in there that will. So that's the reason for that, Mr. Avent. And that works for us. So
very good.
I invite all of you to come down at your earliest opportunity. See the one that we have working. See the clients. We have clients in the 110 space right now.
Well, Vin, I'm gonna get your information and make an appointment to come visit you. Okay. I mean your phone number or whatever. Is it scrolling on the bottom? I see.
Absolutely.
Going across the bottom. Okay, gotcha.
That's direct to me, Avent.
Fantastic.
Let me reel you back in, Vin. I'm sure you also have some thoughts on academia. Mr. Avent is a graduate of Cornell. He's also big on entrepreneurship, including the Redwood Grill, Heart and Soul magazine, and
Umoja Sasa.
He had his own brand of condoms. But you being a downtown business and an entrepreneur, I know you want to put a plug in for that historic institution you attended up on the hill.
No, first of all, I didn't go to that school. I went to Baltimore Polytechnic Institute.
That's what I'm talking about.
We're not on the hill. When you say on the hill, that's the other spot. That's another spot.
We live down in the valley, man.
Thank you. Right.
You had to go up to Hamden. That was all uphill. Them white boys can fight up there, Mr. Avent.
Yeah.
And then we're also joined by Mr. Darren Rogers. Darren, introduce yourself.
Yeah,
Tell them
I recognize Darren. Come on in here, Darren.
Hey, how y'all doing? So, Darren Rogers, founder and executive director of I Am Mentality Youth Male Empowerment Project. So, I'm familiar with Big Brother Vin, and the work that he does. We partnering, do a lot of partnerships with Baltimore City and the We Are Us movement.
Yes, sir.
So I'm just getting to meet. I'm familiar with Mr. Avent as well, and I'm just getting to meet Princess.
So, Mr. Avent, I want to get back to you. Princess, why don't you reel him back in with presumably you had a question. You were asking about reading and at what age the reading. That's where the conversation was last.
Yeah, we were talking about the importance of teaching our kids how to read early. And I bring this up because according to recent publications, the school systems are dealing with this very issue.
Mm-hmm.
Reading comprehension, students not grasping material, students not understanding, the importance of sentence structure, students having a hard time writing their own essays because of the intervention of artificial intelligence. So I think this is a great question for everyone on the panel. And you know you're not just business owners, but you also just happen to be men. So what are your thoughts about the importance of education and teaching our young boys how to read early?
Mr. Avent?
Well, obviously, I think that's how we started on this whole train. We talked to Donnie, opened the show with giving a bunch of statistics about all the issues that are impacting Black men, and a lot of it has to do with mental health. Whether it's unemployment, incarceration, a variety of the problems that are impacting Black men. And where I started off was that a lot of the problems that are happening happens because of the lack of education, and the educational problems are impacted because quite too often Black men aren't learning how to read at a very young age. And that's how we got on this whole topic. It was that we really need to start helping young men, or Black men, Black boys, read as early as possible, 2, 3, 4 years old, so that by the time they get in kindergarten, they're reading at a first and second grade level. By the time they get in fourth grade, they're reading at a fifth and sixth grade level. If you can do that, you're more likely to be able to keep those boys in school all the way through graduation, and for them to go on to higher education. But if they can't read by third, fourth grade, like we've heard this statistic before, if they can't read by the third grade, they're already building jail cells for them. So the prison industrial complex is already planning out, they can't read, what's going to happen. And we should know that. We should understand that they're building jail cells because they know we can't read by 3 years old. We're going to lose hope, and we're going to turn to criminal activity because we can't read, we can't get a job, and all those different types of things. And so I think it's imperative, and that's why I'm one of the founders of a school for Black boys. So right now we got about 320 boys this year in our school from fourth grade to eighth grade. And it's my goal in the next, we go through, we're a charter school, so we have to be renewed. And we'll be going into our renewal next year. And hopefully God will bless us with a 5-year or 8-year renewal. And we'll be asking the school district, can we expand down to kindergarten at least? And so that we can get boys at a younger age, because what we're finding that when we get them at the fourth grade, because we're fourth grade to eighth grade, that too many of them are reading on a kindergarten, first grade level. And so we want to build our own kindergarten, our own first grade, and teach them ourselves, so that when they come through our system, they're always on or above grade level. But certainly so many of our problems, mental health problems, unemployment problems, even our physical problems, can be linked back to the lack of education that too many men are not receiving in this country. And we all have to do something about that.
Darren, you want to chime in?
I do. So I totally agree. I totally agree. And I'll lean it in, like from a cause-based standpoint. So, one of the bigger things that I feel is happening that's causing young people not necessarily to be prepared for, for grade school and, to be successful in academics is family structural issues, right? So typically, if 70% of the young people that are born in African American homes, live in single parent households, which creates, a divide and makes it very, very challenging for one person to have to be responsible for ensuring that a person can get into a preschool, right? What I'm seeing consistently is that young people aren't engaged in daycare and preschool at early ages, so they're not developing the motor skills that they need to develop, and it's just causing them to kind of be off balance. And just where we are, I'm not sure we have a group of leaders on the call, but there's a bunch that's going on with, just the way that, African Americans are seeing their families now. So we have a group of young girls. I serve a bunch of people. So I'm 16 years into this journey, but it's on a day-to-day basis. I hear young women say that they have no interest in, being married, or no interest in, they don't mind having a baby. They want the baby often more than they want, the relationship with the man. Now, everyone can pick and choose to do whatever it is that they want to do. But when we talk about, growing as a society and growing as Black people, we want to choose the structure that's going to provide for the best young person. And I'm seeing that become an extreme challenge over and over and over again. So young people are able to join my program at 8 years old. So typically, the parent that's engaged in a young person in my program, which I'm not opposed to, 90% of the young people we serve live in single parent households, right? And so I come from a single parent household, so I'm a demonstration of that you can make it. It just makes it really complicated, and it just becomes a financial barrier, which positions a person to not be able to accept, if that makes sense.
Mr.
Absolutely.
McCormick, you being you being the substance abuse guru, any thoughts on our young boys, in addition maybe to not being able to read, or where reading isn't superimposed on them at home, but they learn how to smoke weed or sell weed at a young age? What's been your experience?
So let me say first, thank you for everyone who has some input on this, that's on the panel. And it's unfathomable that we're here in this forum today in 2024, right? After society's progression and legislature and our first Black president and all these things, it's unfathomable that we're still here having this kind of conversation. But the reality is we're still here having this conversation. So what that says to me, right, is that we are still, when I say we, I'm talking about the Black community. We are still disenfranchised, and all of us have our own experiences individually as people, right? I'm certain of that. But to the question pointedly, most of my clients come from a broken home, as we say. That's our terminology, right? A one-parent home. And I lend myself to Rogers and what he is dealing with his folks that he finds. That's the norm, not the exception. The norm, right? That's one thing, right? So that in itself has its own lane and potentiality for answers and all that. That's a whole nother conversation. The Black single family household. How did we get here? That's not for today's top conversation, because we only got 21 more minutes or 31 more minutes, right? So that's that. And then we have the economic impact, right, of those households. So it would be one thing if they were single family households, middle class, whether it's upper or lower, because middle class has within it its own classes, right? And we didn't term those. Those were termed for us, right? So then there's that. So let's get into the economics. In Baltimore City, there are more lower income groups and neighborhoods than middle to high. That's that part, right? That's a whole nother discussion as well. So we have a lot of things that impact our young men and women, right? To read, to want to read or not want to read. That's the question, right? Some of that, to be very honest, ladies and gentlemen, this is Vin's McCormick's perspective. Some of that has very little to do with the adults in the room. We have found through, because we asked a lot of questions during our psychosocial, right? A lot of things are impacted by peer pressure. When they leave the home and go out and hang out with their boys or their girls, or their boys and girls, there are things and discussions that you may never hear of as parents or as teachers. You might not hear. I'm sure, Avent, I'm sure there's a lot of discussions in the hallways amongst your students that you, as the administrator, or the teachers whose rooms they just left or get ready to go into, are not privy to, that's impacting that young man or young woman that day. And I'm not that for you men, that young man in that moment that will potentially impact his life. We went to Carolyn Jackson charter school about 3 months ago. Me, Dr. Bunley, the coach from Emerson, the basketball coach from Emerson, and a dude had done 38 years, right? I was asked by the vice principal, the associate principal, vice principal, Miss Jesus, what is her name?
This is at Lily Mae Carroll Jackson.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Anitra. Well, I know Anitra is. I forget Anitra's last name, but she's the principal, and there's another sister named Katrina who is the CEO. But it wasn't one of them.
Wait a minute, Evan, because you're making me be specific. So we went to. There's a charter school in West Baltimore.
It's in. Oh, it was in West Baltimore.
Yeah, West Baltimore.
Okay. Yeah. No, Lily Mae Carroll Jackson's in East Baltimore.
Yeah, this was in East Baltimore. I mean, I'm sorry. This was in West Baltimore over there by Winchester Armory.
Okay. I'm not sure.
Fagan, matter of fact, Miss Fagan just became the principal of that school. Carolyn Jackson is a school. But anyway, so I was asked by the assistant principal to come and talk to the 7th and 8th graders about smoking weed because they have been, they found 7th, 8th grade smoking weed in the building, and they reached out to outside entities to come and talk to those graders specifically. So we had an auditorium with 7th, 8th graders. Now I wasn't smoking weed in the 8th grade. I waited until I got, I think, until 11th, right? But as we move along progressively in society, those numbers, those ages come down for whatever reason, right? That's a whole nother panel discussion and focus group and all that. But the reality is, it's going on, right? So we're left with how do we deal with it now that's going on? So the reading, I believe, is becoming less presented as a need for your survival, right? As many things else. They're on the internet, right? And they're gaming much more these days than ever. And reading, you don't need to read the game. You don't need to read the game. You know,
you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and so I believe there's less of a focus in the household first, and then in the school, because you're at home longer than you're in school. There's less of an emphasis in the home for reading for us, for the Black community, right? And in school, secondly, right? Because
so let's get some feedback. Are you facing?
I apologize. Sometimes I know how to get a mic back.
No, you've set the tone, Mr. Avent. You want to address that?
No, I think all of you have made fantastic points. Large part of the reason why the reading is not going on at home is because of parental involvement, and like you said, far too many of these young boys are coming from single parent households, mostly led by women. Now, the one thing that I will say, particularly in Baltimore, they may be lower class, but women overall, Black women overall, are doing better than every other group in the country when it comes to education. Right now, I think it's 51% of Black women ages 18 to 24 are in college. And so Black women outpace every other group, white males, white women, any other group. Black women outpace us in college. But far too many are in this situation in Baltimore City and cities like it, who don't have that education, who are choosing to have children out of wedlock at very young ages when they themselves haven't completed their education, or when they were in school, they didn't do it at a high level. And so they are the ones who are bringing the boys, to the school. And you can tell by, what energy the boys are bringing into the building, by the way they talk, by the way they act. And I mean, literally, sometimes you can smell as the boy comes in the building at 7-something in the morning, you can smell weed coming off his clothes, and so they are being exposed to an environment where education, they really believe that we're going to be the ones to solve the problem. Like, I'm gonna drop him off at school, y'all educate him, and if he doesn't get educated, it's on y'all. Y'all did a horrible job, school system. That's why I'm never one to really attack Dr. Santelises or anybody, because being an administrator of a school, I realize that the real problem starts at home. It does not start with us as the school. Dr. St. Elisa's is so far removed from being there with that child every single day. It's the teachers are in there every single day, but what the teachers tell us is this boy has a problem. What we find out all the time are boys are having problems that start at home, and then they're dropped in our lap for us to solve those problems. And so so you got that happening. Then because so many of them are coming from single-headed households, the boys are angry because they're missing their father. They don't know who their father is. They want to have a relationship with him. And oftentimes the mother doesn't know who he is, or she's denying the child to have the relationship with their father. And so that is missing from a lot of these children's lives too. So a large part of the problem that, these mental health problems, these emotional problems, these disorders that they're having comes from, neglect and from these childhood traumas that these children are having. And then they come to school, they can't learn, they can't read, and they keep manifesting themselves in these, these problems that we're seeing throughout our community. So, I mean,
So, Edwin, sorry.
Let me just say, I think
Yeah.
that you got the three of us, myself with the school, my brother with I Am Mentality in the mentoring part, as well as Brother McCormick with the mental health part, all have to come to bear on trying to do something to alleviate some of the problems that our men are experiencing in our community.
Yeah, and I do want to jump to the owner of I Am Mentality, but before I do so, I want to comment on some of what we talked about in terms of the family dynamic, the family structure. Um, there are more and more families divorcing. There are more and more families becoming single households. I am a product of a single mother household. And even now, I'm going through my own challenges of marriage. But what I will say is, I personally have the belief that it's all about foundation. Whether there are two parents in the house or one person in that house, what I think a lot of times it's time. What are the what are the two most important aspects of every business? Time and money.
Mm-hmm.
What are the reasons we don't educate our kids at home? Time and money. And what are some examples of that? I hear a family say, I have to get up early in the morning. I have to get home early to make dinner. And at the end of the day, after I make dinner and do the laundry, I'm so tired that I just have to go to bed. And then I have to get up the next day and get it all started again so that the kids can get to school. It's time and money. So how do we make education more accessible where people don't feel like it's so much work, so that it's a little bit easier for them to manage? I want to tell you all about this program I came across, and then I want to find out more about I want to go back to the owner of I Am Mentality, but before I do so, there's a program called Children Learning Reading. I put the link in the chat. Children Learning Reading. It's a program that online it's going for $32.90. I purchased it for my son. It was about $100 when I bought it. And one of the reasons why it's affordable is I believe that parents can use it at their own pace. They can print the resources. And literally, the way I approach reading is just one page a day when it comes to teaching your kids phonics. One page a day is better than 0 pages. And while I might read to my son, I make it a priority to read to my child every single day. And we're doing tracing and we're writing. He's 3 years old. I'm teaching him things that, I know his preschool isn't teaching them, but I'm a little bit different because I come from a family of foundation. I don't care who else is in my house. I know that it's important that we set the foundation, and that foundation starts early. So I want to go back to, I want to plug in I Am Mentality. And I want to talk to you about, one, what inspired you to start I Am Mentality? And from your standpoint, you see some good and you see some not so good. So what is your organization doing in the area of academia to empower these young people that you come across every single day?
Yeah, so I definitely appreciate that. So a few things. So as far as we're seeing, to be perfectly honest, and let's just look at it. I want to look at this from just like a Baltimore lens, not just I Am Mentality. as from a Baltimore lens, we're seeing way more bad than good, right? And I think as leaders, we have to look at it. I am mentality is in existence because of, you know, the challenges that we face just as a whole. So as a whole, we're seeing way more bad than good when it comes to academics with young men. Um, so some of the things that we're doing is, first of all, we have 4 focus areas. So we serve a population of young people ages 8 to 18. So we have an elementary school cohort, middle school cohort, and a high school cohort. And the way that we make an impact is in 4 focus areas. So leadership development, we believe that if a young person knows who they are as a leader, it's life changing, and you'll never be the same. The second focus area is workforce development. So we believe that, you know, in this workforce development paired with college and career readiness, a lot of our young people are aborting the idea of post-secondary education because they feel like you don't have to. Everything is negotiable, right? And I want to put a pin in that part because I want to have a conversation with you, Princess, about something that you shared. It's about, you know, you don't have to. So I don't have to go to college. I can be a rapper, I can be an artist, and you can be whatever it is that you want to be. What we want is we want you to make that decision from a strength-based standpoint. So you could choose either one. It's not that I'm not going to college because I'm not prepared. I didn't do the studying. You know, it's more or less like I just think it's more feasible for me to go and work for BG&E based on my skill set. The third focus area is financial literacy. You know, I grew up extremely poor, and I understand the power of learning finances and being able to change your life from that standpoint. The fourth area is health and wellness. So that's where we do a lot of our, you know, mental health work. And that's kind of like the space that we spend a lot of our time. So that's kind of what we're doing. Specifically academically, we've just raised over the last year like $20,000 to provide tutoring for young men because we know the impact of COVID, how COVID has, pushed the learning loss on a lot of our young people. But also, it kind of goes back to what you shared from a foundational piece. A lot of our young people are not positioned well because they can't focus on school. I can't focus on school because I have so many other things to focus on. So I have to focus on the fact that my lights aren't on. I may have to focus on the fact that my mother or father or somebody in my house is, you know, running rampant because of opioid addiction. So many things that I have to really pay attention to that I shouldn't necessarily have to pay attention to at a young age. But one thing I do want to push back on the thought process of like it doesn't matter, and I'm saying this from a person who comes from a single parent household, who worked with almost, you know, a 100% population of people who come from a single parent household, and you share the foundation piece. I think the foundation and the thought process is why we are here, because you said time, right, and money. In order to have more money in a house, you usually have more money in a house when you have 2 incomes, right? One of the major struggles that women are going through, and understand this, I've been serving women for 16 years. If you say my name around women, they'll rave about the work that we've done. But one of the greatest challenges they have is they don't have the time. And because they don't have the time is because they don't have the relational partner that allows them to have the time. They typically don't have the time to care for themselves. We do surveys when individuals enter our program. And if I had to say out of 100%, 75 to 80% of the young ladies that we serve, the parents, they don't have a self-care plan. They're not engaging beyond getting your nails done or, you know, getting your hair done. Those plans are not in place because the relationships that we have and the challenges that we face cause us not to be positioned well. Now, I do understand that we are where we are. My mother was 14 when she had me. My father was 16. My father used drugs for, you know, extended period of my life. I understand it. I understand where we are and in the fight that you have to engage in to get there. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to ever get comfortable with misunderstanding the fact that the best way to raise our children, I don't care about what adults like or what they think. I don't give a damn about how they feel. The best way to raise our children is in a nuclear household, and the statistics bear us out. It may not always work. You know, I've been married for 8 years, so I know the challenges that wage in relationships and things of that nature. But I just want us to get into a point where we, if nothing else, we accept that that is the best way to position our children for success.
No, and a hundred
You know,
percent.
I
I,
think,
I,
thank
I
you, Derek.
absolutely agree. I'm sorry for speaking over you, Princess, but no, I just have to concur 100%. You know, a
Done.
large part of the problem that these children are dealing with aren't their own making. It's the people who made them, you know, who are placing these children in these unfortunate circumstances. But you're right. I mean, it particularly in America, it's too expensive to even take care of yourself, let alone take care of children by yourself. And so really a two-parent household is the best solution. And then we got to get deeper about our own, you know, the situation with divorce and all that kind of stuff in our own community. It's kind of like, to me, once you get married and then you have children, to me, you're almost obligated to stay together till your children have grown up and left your house, because that's your obligation, you know. And children of divorce experience a lot of trauma themselves, you know. So you know, it's a challenge that we I wish we had the solution to, but it's a large part of our problem, you know, the single-headed households and divorce in our community.
You know, I want to jump in a little bit, and I have a question for you, Edwin. But before I ask my question, I want to put this out there. So I'm a big supporter of the nuclear household.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a beautiful structure when it works. But we also have to be very honest. And we both, all of us know that beyond our control, sometimes it's the woman, sometimes it's the men. For whatever the reason, it doesn't always work. So when we know it doesn't work, the question is, how do we still, in the absence of a nuclear household, because there are lots of kids living in single family households, how do we empower our children to still yet attain success? Because that's what's most important. So for me, for example, I started my business as a married woman, but I didn't have all the supports. But
Mm-hmm.
my mother was very supportive. And when my business started, I didn't always have all the income, but I had a foundation. I had education, and I knew that I had faith, and I knew I needed to believe in myself. And it was my education that carried me forth. Whether my father was in the picture or not, education was the foundation. So I believe that if we teach our kids mental strength and what it means to be educated in spite of the emotional or social circumstances that surround us, we are empowering them mentally to succeed. And if a relationship works, that's great. It's beautiful. But like I said, when it doesn't work, the question is, how do we help each other succeed? So I have a question for you, Edwin, because you're
Yes.
the owner and CEO of Baltimore Collegiate School for Boys. How can we support your organization?
Well, I mean, I'm always looking for people who are willing to share their time, talent, and treasure. Time. People who can help boys learn how to read. So you might have some time that you can give an hour a week to come in and be a person that sits with a boy in the fourth grade and you know, take the curriculum that we share with you and try to help that little boy learn how to read. So that's very valuable. There's talent. People can teach things to our boys that'll be very impactful to their lives. Whether it's you know, learning crypto or learning how to code or something like that we're not doing in class, that would be very helpful to us. Whether they can coach our team and willing to give their time to coach the team, because all the time we can't afford to pay for 4 coaches, but we might need 4 coaches. We can only pay for 1. So somebody might have a talent, they might have time, they can share that with our boys. And then always treasure. Financially, we definitely need that. The amount of money that we get from Baltimore City to educate each boy is not enough. Not enough to house them in the building that we do the education and pay for all of the staff. And so I spend a lot of my time as a CEO out raising additional money past the money that we get from the city and the state. So time, talent, and treasure. Anytime somebody has a heart to want to make a difference in the lives of boys, we welcome them, and we have a path for them to be able to to share their time, talent, or treasure with us.
So what I hear you also saying, Edwin, is that you need volunteers
Volunteers, without a doubt.
and
Without a doubt.
investors. How do people get in touch with you and your
They,
organization?
they can definitely reach out to me. Well, they can, call our school at 443-642-5320. They can visit our website. Yeah, I'm sorry, 443-642-5320. They can visit our website at baltimorecollegiate.org. They can send us an email at info@baltimorecollegiate.org, or they can send me an email at my first initial last name, Avent, at baltimorecollegiate.org. And we're so excited when people want to share, volunteer, whatever. We're taking them in, and we can put them right to work to really pour into the lives of our young men.
Thank you. And let's not forget our advertisers on the show.
I was just thinking, Vin, maybe we could do do you have celebrity basketball games? Vin, can you play basketball? I know you go up there.
Not in a long time.
Yeah. Speaking of basketball games, I'm on here. We're having our staff student basketball game, like as we speak. And I'm like, I said, I don't believe I committed to be on this program during the staff student, but that's okay. It's important to get the word out and share what we're doing here at Baltimore Collegiate.
Well, we certainly thank everybody for joining in. Princess, any questions being a single mom or soon to be single mom? Any questions from these men on how to help Aiden, your son?
So I don't want to change the topic too much. And I do think it's important that we go back to Vin and ask Vin how can more people support New Life Recovery and the work that you do. But I also want to bring up a topic that we don't talk about a lot. And I think maybe this is another show. It's a show. And hold on, let me give it some background because I don't want to scare too many folks. I used to work in child support for 6 years. And as a child support enforcement worker, I saw all aspects of court orders involving foster care cases out of Baltimore City and Baltimore County, young people having kids early. So what I would like to do is teach our young children about sex ed. And I know that's something that we don't really talk about in the community, but it's something that it needs to be talked about. And the other issue that I saw as a child support worker is, what is a court order? You wouldn't believe this. I met some men who are about my age. I needed some, in Baltimore City, I needed a service. I won't go into too many details, but I needed a service done on my car. And I was talking to two guys, and they were honest with me. They said, we don't know anything about child support, but yet we have kids, and we are dealing with child support system, and we don't understand it, and we need some help. So when I hear those words, I hear education. Mm-hmm. And what kind of education would help empower a nuclear family, or what would help empower our kids to make better decisions and choices, I think, is teaching them about sexual responsibility. And it's something that we'll talk about as much in schools. Why? Because the schools are, they are under a lot of pressures to follow curriculums. But yet our kids are engaging in activity that may not be serving them well. And now that might be next Friday's show. But for right now, because I know it's 12:55 and I'm a woman of time, let's go back to Vin and ask Vin, how can we support New Life Recovery Center?
Well, thank you for the question first. So there are a few things that if people were so inclined that they could do. They're welcome to. So let me back up. And I didn't introduce this because I don't normally talk about it. We have and we've only got a couple of minutes, so maybe the next show I'll share about it more elaborately. We have a nonprofit called New Life Recovery Foundation, which we do ask. I do ask for donations when I'm talking about that entity. I never ask for donations for New Life Recovery because it's a for-profit. I don't do that. We get our funding primarily through billing. So as it relates to funding, I never asked for anybody for money for New Life Recovery Center. I want to make sure I distinguish that for anybody who might be listening to this show beyond right now. But what they can do is they certainly are welcome to donate clothing that are fit to wear, right? Not something you just try and trash. Or let me take that over to those drug addicts down in New Life, out because we go through things. We throw a lot of stuff away. If you don't want to, if you no longer want to wear it, we don't want it. That's my mantra, right? And I hold to that. That's one thing. Secondly, Princess, to your question, is we do take volunteers when we feed the community every last Friday of the month. Those are the only two things that we really need from the community, because we're for profit, and we have to be very careful as it relates to things that we can take, or service wise or monetarily. So that's a long answer to your short question.
So you
Let me
need
just jump in here.
donations.
Let
You
me
need
just jump in
donations,
here.
clothing donations, and food donations.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let me
Okay.
just jump in here, Mr. Avent.
Yes, sir.
Because of Mr. McCormick's largesse, because of his philanthropy and his support of the work that we do at Be More News and Black USA, we would love to help the Baltimore Collegiate School for Boys have a regular segment, have a regular show. Princess, we've been working with her for 18 years now. She's grooming her own business. But whatever we can do to assist your young people in the world of media, I hope you know that's a given.
Well, thank you very much, from your lips to now my ears. So now I know that this is available for our boys, and definitely I'm very interested. So I'd love to continue the conversation offline. I know we're down to our last 2 minutes, but I'm very interested in that offer, Donnie.
Well, let me just share with all of you. We control this, so it's over when we say it's over. Don't feel that press. But anything that we haven't gotten out there as it relates to Baltimore, and you were kind when you mentioned Dr. Santalisa, but I remember you were under attack. And
I know.
In case Van
and that's coming from somebody who was under attack by her. I just like I said, we want the best for all of our children in Baltimore City.
I can't believe anyone would try to stop your school going after the most vulnerable population in the city of Baltimore, Van. The most vulnerable population. Who does that? In a black city, black mayor, black governor, black attorney general, all black everything. What in the hell is going on? Mass incarceration? I mean, you're on the front lines.
But you know what, Donnie, here at the end of the day, it was never in her hands. It's in God's hands. That's the whole thing. I pray about it. I pray about all this stuff. And when I pray, I don't worry, because I know we're doing God's work and he has a plan for us. And so, I also know there's all kind of forces that be in behind the scene that we don't know about. Things in the shadows that we don't know about, that I'm not going to question. To me, people could come after me tomorrow and say that I'm doing a horrible job with the school, when I know my heart is in the right place. I'm doing everything I can to try and help these boys, but people can come for me. And then it's like, they don't know me. They don't know my heart. They don't know how hard I work. They don't understand what I'm dealing with, because we want to move test scores, but we've talked about some of the ills that we're dealing with in our community and why some of our children are not academically successful. And it's not all on me as the administrator or her as the administrator. That's all I'm saying. And so that's why I just try to give her grace. I would hope people would give me grace if I was placed in the same situation. But, I don't dwell on the negative, man. I only focus on the positive and on winning. And that's what we're going to do.
Well, if there's a suggestion, Ven and I both have been there to welcome students back. Maybe we have to get the men, and I can't forget Reggie Haysbert. That was the last time I saw him there. But maybe we've got to come and do more of those welcome back, but maybe after Thanksgiving, after Christmas, maybe we've got to make that more of a regular get together. And
I think that's the answer. I always believe that the answer to our problem, we are the answer to our own problems. We are. We've got to be the ones to roll up our sleeves and say, yo, we know what the problem is. We're going to go fix it. I'm not expecting the mayor to fix it. I don't expect the governor to fix it. I expect us. If we're black men, we're committed to this. Let us get together and get it done. And that's the difference that we need to make. I'm not going to count on anybody else. And I know that we can get it done, and we do have opportunities for you guys to come in and help us. I see you waving your finger, Princess. I do have to jump off, everybody. Unfortunately,
as do I. Yes.
I got to go to my next meeting. But look, I love you all, and thank you very much. And Princess, we're going to chat because people have been saying to me all the time, "Are you on radio?" You know, it's because of my voice, right? I'm like, no, I think God has been telling me all these years I'm supposed to be doing voiceover. So maybe you be my mentor.
Absolutely. You know, I want to put something out there before you all go. Two things I want to put out there. So, children
Quickly,
and
because they
voiceover
got to go.
I got people
We have
waiting
to
for
go.
me on the Zoom.
Oh, so okay. So next time we'll talk later.
We'll get together.
We'll talk later.
I appreciate you all. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day. Thank you all.
Right.
God bless you.
Great show.
So, Princess, what is it you wanted to share? Thank you for joining us, Van.
Oh, I was going to mention to Edwin on the topic of reading that children, once they learn how to read and they've mastered certain skills, voiceover is a potential career path for them. You know, there are a lot of networks looking for children who look like us, brown skinned children, you know, African American, different ethnicities and races, to do voiceovers for different networks. And it's a real career path. And they can make a living once they've mastered certain skills.
That goes back to your point that was made, or actually the point that was made to you a couple of days ago, that that's a business opportunity for you.
Yeah, true. No, it's true. It's a great business opportunity.
For you to start recruiting your own cadre of voiceover professionals.
Absolutely. It's something that I've given consideration to. And the other thing is, I maybe next Friday, but, you know, I think in terms of what New Life Recovery Center provides, I think there's a stigma about men and women who get help for substance abuse and different types of abuses. And that stigma should not exist. And so empowering other people to feel comfortable getting the help and services they need is extremely important. And that's what Avent does.
It's life or death. In many instances, it's life or death. You either want help or you want to die. It's really simple.
Yeah. But feeling you have that support system to let you know it's okay to get help.
You want life or you want death.
Yeah. So anyway.
Ain't nobody hold no gun on you and made you put those substances in you. So you gotta want it just like you wanted that thing. Yeah. You gotta want freedom and recovery just like you thought you wanted to get high.
Yeah. No, I agree. There has to be a desire to get the help one needs, but then knowing that you have a support system once you've gotten that help.
You ain't had no support system when you went to buy that dope. You went and bought that dope.
You know, the peer pressure.
You gotta pivot. It's either that or die. Live or die. It ain't no two ways about it.
Yeah. Well, I won't keep you. Thank you for a great show.
You're coming along there, Princess.
Thank you, Donnie. I appreciate you welcoming me to today's show.
Okay. Stick around. We got to get you signed in. If I think better, I do better. My name's Donnie Glover. Good afternoon, world.
Thank you. Good afternoon, world.